Just how much is the Florida Gators offense going to open up in 2025?
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Monday. I'm Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find out my written work with New York Giants on SI. Today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. And we're talking about how much the Florida Gators offense could might open up in 2025, because on Saturday, offensive coordinator Russ Callaway, who again, Billy Napier is expected to continue calling plays, but Russ Callaway, which again, I'm not fully sold that that's actually going to happen. I do think there's a chance he gives up play calling to Russ Callaway. But either way, Russ Callaway will have more of a say in the offense this year. On Saturday, Russ Callaway mentioned that Florida's offense is going to open up more, right? That they feel like they've got the personnel to run more than just 11 and 12 personnel now. And I will say this, I'm a sick individual. So we're going to look at those personnel possibilities. We'll say there's 11 personnel, if you don't know, 1 running back, 1 tight end. 12 personnel, 1 running back, 2 tight ends, okay? And then whatever after that is your receivers. So if it's 11 personnel, 1 running back, 1 tight end, that means 3 receiver set. If it's 1 running back, 2 tight ends, that means it's a 2 receiver set. That's how it works. The most common one that I do think that fans want to see, and myself included, by the way, 10 personnel, right? 1 running back, 0 tight ends. And look, I love the tight end position. I think that Florida should still have 11 and 12 personnel be very prominent parts of this offense. But you can't deny the potential impact that 10 personnel could have on your offense, right? It's a fan favorite suggestion. The main reason being that it spreads the field, right? It spreads the field. So you got DJ Lagway in the backfield. You've got whichever running back is behind him or next to him in the backfield with him is the point. And then you've got 4 wide receivers out there. We're just, for the sake of this, gonna talk about it mostly as if it was doubles, which is 2 wide receivers on each side. There's of course trips where 3 on one side, 1 on the other. But for the most part, we're talking about with doubles here. And it lightens the box a lot. And that helps Florida. That does. That helps every offense there. Because if you've got your 5 offensive linemen versus 5 box defenders, because that's probably what you're going to get. Say there's 2 receivers on the right, 2 receivers on the left. You're probably going to get 2 safeties there because you've got a ton of speed out there. They're probably going to go too high so that you can't just throw bombs on them. So there's that. Then you've got probably a defensive back lined up over every receiver. So you're probably going to have 4 defensive linemen or we'll say defensive linemen, even if one's a stand-up or whatever, and then a linebacker behind him. That means that as an offense, you've got the advantage. Because as an offense, now you've got 5 offensive linemen going up against 5 defensive box players, one of them being a linebacker, which linebackers in today's football, way lighter, right? So you can have just one-on-one blocking there, or you can have someone on the interior double and then an interior lineman climb to the next level and take on the linebacker. But that's a big benefit for the run game. Like there's just such an advantage there in the run game as well, which, by the way, is very important, that you need to still have that run game, even if you spread things out, because then you actually have a threat with play action. Also, that opens up the quarterback run game, right? You can go 10 personnel, put a running back in motion, or it doesn't even have to go in motion. You can just not line up in the backfield. Because personnel is the position of the players on the field, not where they're lined up. So you can go 10 personnel, have a running back out wide, empty backfield, right? And that opens up your quarterback run game. We saw it all the time with Dan Mullen and Kyle Trask. That was one of the I want to say that was one of the most predictable things that Dan Mullen ever did. Like that was the most predictable Dan Mullen has ever been as a play caller, was that pretty consistently, if they went empty backfield and you gave the Florida Gators a light box, they would have no problem just running QB blast with Kyle Trask. Okay. Kyle Trask had 28 designed runs in 2020. 28 designed runs. Kyle Trask isn't a guy that should have 28 designed runs. So you could have DJ Lagway in there, and he can take the ball. If you go empty set, they give you a light box, he could take it. Or even if you have a running back in the backfield with him, you could run the option, and that really stresses the defense. That especially stresses them because if the edge rusher that you're reading, or the read man, because it doesn't have to be an edge rusher, but in this case, if the edge rusher that you're reading fires down and the quarterback keeps it, there's a chance that there's not going to be anybody within 10 yards of him, of DJ Lagway taking the ball there. That's huge. This is also the best way to ensure that your best athletes get on the field, okay? Because the way that I think about it, and look, I'm going to use 4 receivers. There's going to be obviously a rotation of, I think we're going to see genuinely 7 receivers in the rotation. I don't think they know exactly who those 7 are yet. But I think we'll see 7 receivers in the rotation, okay? So let's say you've got J. Michael Sturdivant out wide on one side, Aiden Mizell out wide on the other, okay? In the slot, you got Trey Wilson and you got Hank Hawkins. Yeah, sure, like you could say Vernell Brown III could be in the slot, Dallas Wilson could be out wide, whatever it may be. It could be Aiden Mizell in the slot. I don't care. We're not getting into those logistics right now. But that could be your set where you could say any of the running backs in the backfield. And then you go, okay, we've got Dallas and J. Michael Sturdivant, or J. Michael Sturdivant and Aiden Mizell. And those are tall receivers that can run vertical. Okay. So they'll have all that space to run vertical. And then underneath, you would have just speed running throughout. Good luck keeping up with everybody, right? Like good luck being able to stop that. I will also say this because I do think that it's important to acknowledge this. There is no world where, because I get the comments, and even if you think this is a ludicrous comment to get, I promise you I get them. There is no world in which you should spread the field every single play, go 10 personnel every play, or go empty backfield every play. There's no world in which you should do that, okay? It is 2025. Be better, be smarter. There are more resources to learn, and there's more resources than ever to know more about football, which, by the way, genuinely, there are some fantastic content creators out there that teach you about football, and you should take advantage of those. For Florida's 10 personnel, I do think that would help a ton. I think that Florida has an athletic enough offensive line where they can do a lot more in the run game. And so being able to do that in the run game while having a very dynamic receiver group and a dual threat quarterback, that opens up everything. There is nothing that Florida can't do schematically this year, okay? Like any schematic things that you go, oh yeah, no, Florida just doesn't have the scheme, just doesn't have the guys to do that. Out the window. They can do anything they want this year, okay? They've got the receivers, they've got the tight ends, they've got the quarterback, they've got the running backs, and they've got the offensive line. They can do anything they want offensively, schematically. We're going to talk about one that I need you to bear with me, okay? These next 2 segments, we're going to get a little, like I said, like Charlie Day. Like we're gonna go crazy with the conspiracy theory here. But we're going to do that when we get back with Locked On Gators. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Your home should reflect your style, and with Wayfair, it's easier than ever to make that happen. Whether you're looking for a simple refresh or tackling a big home project, Wayfair has everything you need in one place. And we've had Wayfair for a while now, and just a few, I think it was a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago at this point, we did the Wayfair ad here. And I was like, yeah, like I'm still redoing my living room. I will let you know. We have finished that. We've finished the process. Wayfair was super helpful with it. They were a big help there. And like I've said, I love the easy shipping, delivery. They brought it into my house, which thankfully, look, New York, it ain't easy to get things upstairs around here, right? Especially when it's me. It ain't easy. Head over to wayfair.com and find something that's just your style today. That's Wayfair, WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free, wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. And like I said, these next two segments, we're going to get a little zany here, right? But Florida, Russ Callaway, he said, we're going to open up things personnel-wise. We're going to get to do more, okay? And I know that everybody went, 10 personnel. Everybody, I did it too. Once he said it, that was my first. My first thought was, how funny would it be if they opened it up with like two running back sets, two tight end sets, and they just got really condensed. However, we are going to spend the rest of this episode legitimately talking about the possibility of two running back sets. And before anyone gets upset with anything, okay? 20 personnel is the first one that we're talking about. So 2 running backs, 0 tight ends. A lot of times when you say, okay, 2 running back sets, people, I think, generally jump to I form, right? Quarterback under center, fullback behind him, running back behind him. That's generally where they jump to, and I want you to not do that, okay? Like I said, just bear with me here. Before anyone talks about, you got to spread things out more. And you need the air raid. Like this is the air raid. You can't go 2 running back sets. No. Okay. Mike Leach is a top 2 air raid coach of all time, right? I think a lot of people would say Mike Leach, Hal Mummy. I don't think that Lincoln Riley or Cliff Kingsbury have done enough to justify being in that conversation just yet, so I'm not going to include them. So we'll say Mike Leach is a top 2 air raid coach of all time. Mike Leach loved 20 personnel. Okay. He did. So don't waste your time arguing with me about, Russ is from the air raid. They would never do. No, there's different variations of the air raid, of course, but just saying the air raid does not matter because Mike Leach, top 2 air raid coach of all time, loved 20 personnel. And this is not I form, right? I'm not saying Mike Leach loved that. I'm talking about split back sets. So in the shotgun, DJ Lagway in the gun, running back to the right, running back to the left, or I'm not actually suggesting that this is a thing that Florida would do, but a lot of Florida Gators fans wanted Brennan Marion. A lot of 20 and 21 personnel. Okay. That go-go with the 2 running backs to the side, that's 2 running back set there. That's not what I'm talking about so much right now. I'm talking more about split back sets because that's more the air raid style. That's what I think is more likely to happen for Florida, where you say, all right, DJ Lagway's in the backfield. Jaden Baugh's to the left, Jacoby Jackson's on the right? So you get both of them on the side. You've got, again, we'll just throw names out there. J. Michael Sturdivant out wide, Aiden Mizell out wide, and Trey Wilson in the slot. This creates hell for opposing defenses, I'm going to be honest with you. Because when you have, let's say, as opposed to 11 personnel, right? For Florida, when they say, okay, we're going to go 11 personnel, oftentimes it's pistol set, tight end, we'll say in this case on the right. They switch around a lot, but we'll say tight end on the right. And you generally try to run to your stronger side, for Florida at least. When you go 20 personnel, you got a running back on each side there. There's not so much a tell, right? Like if you come out in the shotgun and there's one running back, you generally say, okay, if the running back's on the right, then if he runs, he's probably going to go to the left or right at the middle. But like you usually think not so much the right side. Okay. Split back sets, you can run either side. Defenses have to respect both sides. All right. Because if I have Jaden, Baugh, and Jacoby Jackson, both of them can run. Both of them can block. That's an important part because when you're in 20 personnel, running backs need to be willing and able blockers because there's a chance they might be lead blocking on a play. They got to do that. So, and I keep mentioning Jaden, Baugh, and Jacoby Jackson because I do think that if Florida were to go 20 personnel, I think that those would be the running backs on the field more likely than not. Just because I think that those are the real, true, versatile backs. Not that any of the other backs aren't, but if you say, hey, who are the best runners, receivers, and blockers in the backfield, Jaden, Baugh, and Jacoby Jackson are going to be in that conversation. They're going to be the majority of the conversation is going to be around those two. So I think that those two would be the backs there. And again, I think that what they do and how versatile they are really opens things up. I do think that you can do a lot with motion in or out of the backfield, especially if you just get a look that you like. You could also say, hey, we're going to go 20 personnel with Jaden, Baugh, Jacoby Jackson. We're going to motion one into the slot. Sure, then maybe you take away a little bit from the run game as far as what you can do, but you can also just motion them right back in, pop pass to a running back and let them just get running. You can do a lot, okay? 20 personnel is the thing that I would think Florida is second most likely to introduce, okay? Again, because we're just saying Russ Callaway said you can do a lot more. We're going to have more personnel groupings. To me, the most likely thing that he's talking about there is 10 personnel. Then I think what's the second most likely? And it's 20. I know that we keep saying, yeah, Russ has the air raid background, incredibly talented running backs, incredibly talented receiver room. But from that point on, like, I don't think we're going to see 0-1 personnel, right? Like, I don't think that's going to be a common thing with no running backs, a tight end, and 4 receivers. That just seems like not something Billy Napier would be down to do. 20 personnel, though, could absolutely see it. Especially when you could say, hey, let's motion Trey across, pop pass it to him, and then he's got a running back lead blocking for him there, or 2 running backs going there for him. Like, you could do a lot with things here. And I think that when we talk about making defenses respect the run game and still being able to throw the football effectively, that's what we're talking about. You can have all 3 receivers. You got both guys on the outside running deep, slot running a post, running a dig, whatever it may be, and running backs just leaking out of the backfield into the flats. Dump it and let them run. There's a lot you can do here offensively. And when we talk about these personnel groupings, I think 20 personnel is one that needs not more respect, but more attention, I'll say, because I do think that Florida has the personnel to do that. And again, I'm an advocate for tight ends on the field. But if you're going to open things up personnel-wise, 20 personnel should be in the conversation for, again, second most likely thing. Then we're talking 21 personnel, right? We're going to talk 21 personnel because, like I said, we're going to respect the tight end. We're going to talk about that when we get back with Locked On Gators. March Madness is just about here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories to the Florida Gators winning a national championship. So, which, by the way, I will continue to say the odds I got on them just being awesome, juicy, right? I got Florida making the Final Four at plus 1,500. Plus 1,500, which right now it's plus 140. So great odds there. And Florida winning the national championship, I got a plus 6,000, which right now, Florida to win the national championship, plus 750. Nailed it. Visit FanDuel.com and get it on the college hoops action all tournament long. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. To wrap up today's show, we're going to talk about 21 personnel for the Florida Gators, similar to 20 personnel. But I think in this case, you go heavier and it maybe makes you more predictive, maybe gives the defense a little bit more control, but not so much. And before, like, I'm going to do this again, like I did with 20 personnel, where if anyone wants to go air raid started as a 21 personnel offense. Okay. It's evolved, but it's not something that can't happen. Okay. Going to get rid of that one too. But I do think that while 21 personnel maybe gives you more of a tell, if the tight end's on the right side, you're more likely to run to the right side. So I think it gives you more of the tell, and again, gives the defense more control. But if you've got good enough personnel, as in the players on the field, that doesn't matter, right? Because let's say we go split backs, tight end. Doesn't matter what side he's on. Split backs and a tight end. You got two receivers, right? If the defense wants to say, hey, we're going to go heavy here, like they've got two running backs and a tight end, that makes us think they're going to run it. So we're going to go, hey, 3 defensive linemen, two edge rushers, and 2 linebackers. We're just going to go straight 3-4 there. Go ahead. And then you can have, I don't know, let's say Trey Wilson and J. Michael Sturdivant, right? You could say, hey, J. Michael Sturdivant can run deep. Trey Wilson can destroy you underneath. We're going to work there. Dallas Wilson could be on one side, right? It could be J. Michael Sturdivant and Dallas Wilson, and just have size, speed, talent out there. If the defense wants to go heavy there, then okay, we're going to run a play action shot. We'll have plenty of people in pass protection, and we'll dial the shot up. We'll give our guys a chance, because you know what happens if they do go heavy there? They're probably going to be single high, right? If they truly think that you're going to run the ball, then they'll probably go single high. That's fantastic for Florida, right? Because with how condensed things are going to be, you're probably going to get single high, which limits the coverage you could play. And it also means that you're probably not going to be able to truly double team anybody. Or if you want to double team anybody, you have to determine that before the play. Simple as that. So if you say, hey, they're going to double J. Michael Sturdivant, then have Dallas Wilson run deep, throw a jump ball. If it's Trey Wilson, have Trey work underneath. No one's going to catch him. But if they think that you're going to run the ball, they're going to go heavy. If they go light, then run the ball. Like it's as simple as that. If they want to go heavy, they get to essentially dictate what you're going to do. Because what you're going to do is try to take advantage of whatever they give you numbers in the box wise, which is something that Florida has tried to do quite a bit. I hate how they do it sometimes, but it's something they've tried to do. And like I've said, like I've spoken to people on the coaching staff or previously on the coaching staff, and I've said, hey, you guys, like, why didn't you do this at all? And he basically just went, hey, defense dictated what we did. Like, that's what it was. He's like, hey, defense dictated what we did with how they aligned. Simple as that. Which I hate, by the way. But if you go 21 personnel, you got split back sets with running backs, you got a tight end out there. If they want to dictate what you want to do, I think you've got the personnel right now where you can say, okay, you could dictate what you want to do, and we will just take advantage of that. Our players are better than your players. I've said before, I think this roster, fantastic. I think this is a college football playoff roster. I need the coaching staff to catch up. But in terms of just talent, there are very few teams that I think have more talent than this Florida Gators roster. I don't care about the rankings. I don't care about any of that. I'm saying just cut up the film, and there are very few teams with more talent than the Florida Gators. Coaching, how they're used, that's different. But if you want to say, hey, go ahead, you could dictate that. If you want us to throw the ball, we'll throw the ball. You want us to run the ball, we'll run the ball. And I think 21 personnel, way to get them to dictate that and attack. And also, I think, again, similar to 20 personnel, you could do a lot with the motion. Like, let's just walk with me for a second, okay? You've got your split back set. We'll say you've got tight end on the right side of the line, right in line, right next to the right tackle. He's there. You've got J. Michael Servan on the left side, out wide, and you've got Trey Wilson on the right side. Trey comes in motion, and you look and you say, okay, well, that could be the pop pass. You snap it the way you would for the pop pass, where he's basically lined up at basically when he's crossing the tight end at that point. You snap it. You could fake a pop pass, hand it to the running back on the left, running right. Okay? That's what I mean when I say you can have fun with some of the motion. Because you can have Trey running across to the left. Defense has to respect that he might get the ball. And if they're not respecting it, pop it to him. The defense has to respect that he might get the ball. And when they do that, you run it to the right behind your tight end with the running back on the right lead blocking and the running back on the left taking the carry. You can make a lot happen. You can run RPOs off of that. That same motion. Pop pass, fake it, read, and if it's a keeper, keep it. You could dump it to the flat to Trey Wilson in the flat. You can do so much there. Like, I think that when we talk about, when Russ Callaway talks about, we can play more with personnel groupings. Yes, 10 personnel is the most likely one. But if we're talking about actually playing with personnel groupings and we're talking about actually being creative with things, Florida has the roster to get creative with atypical personnel groupings. 20 personnel, 21 personnel. You have the personnel where you can condense things now and still attack them. You're still going to see 11. You're still going to see 12 personnel. You're going to see both of those. I think they're going to be more effective than ever because I think that Amir Jackson will bring more to the table than Arliss Boardingham. I know Tony Livingston does. So you got Hayden as your inline guy. Caleb Rillo's backing him up. Tony and Amir as your flex tight ends. Best tight end room you've had at Florida. Best receiver room you've had at Florida. Best running back room you've had at Florida. Maybe. I'll say maybe. You could talk about depth-wise, I don't think it's even a competition. But at the top, I do think you could argue that 2023 Montrell and Trevor Etienne, more proven at least, could be better than what you got right now. But also, right now, you've got a better O-line than you've had, I think, since Billy Napier got to Florida. So, best roster he's got, most creative roster he's got. Let's hope the coaching staff can take advantage of him. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free webs in the podcast and on YouTube. We'll be back tomorrow. Talk more Florida Gators football. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. I'll see you all next time.